Guys, this is the first part of your Mudbox Basics lecture. This podcast will be showing you how to set up the Wacom tablet and pen, how to open Mudbox and the basics of the Mudbox menus, and then how to make sure that Maya and Mudbox are connected and you're able to get files between them. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is setting up the tablet. I'll be using Mac to do this, but I'll talk about how to do it on the Windows side verbally. I'm going to talk about the importance of mapping your tablet, how to check for pressure sensitivity, and then the very important middle and right mouse click button setup, which is very weird to get used to at first, but you do need that when you are navigating around Mudbox because it does function as Maya does. So let me go ahead and get started on that. So on a Mac, you're going to go to your System Preferences. I already have this open, so let me do that again. System Preferences. And you just go to the Wacom tablet preferences. So by default, this back button is set to double click. You are going to want to set that to right click. And then you are going to want to set this right click here to middle click. So you should have middle click in the front, right click in the back. I'll just pause on that and make sure you get that right. This is also a good time for you to test your current pressure, so you can just see how that's going, and then you can adjust it here if you feel like you need to. I'm actually working reverse because when I first set up Mudbox, I just sort of did whatever I felt like, and that felt right to me. So I'm so used to it, I'm not going to be able to navigate otherwise. But you should have it reversed of this. And then in mapping, I'm going to talk about this thing, force proportions. So as you can see, I have two monitors. If I hit this force proportions, it's going to make it so that I'm only using half of my tablet here. But what it does do is that when I'm making a circle here, it's making a circle shape. When I don't have that on, when I make a circle, I'm making a circle with my hand right now, and it's making this oval shape. So if you don't have two monitors that you're working with, or if you don't mind losing half your tablet, that force proportions can be really valuable. So that is setting up your pen. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is Mudbox, just getting it open, how to set it up, navigation, and the basic menus. So let's go ahead and get started in that. I'm going to go ahead and, again, I've got Maya open already. You can see that right there. I'm going to go ahead and open Mudbox. So the first time you open it, you should get this menu if you've never opened it before. You know, probably leave it to English if that's your first language, and if you're working with people who are also using English. And then one thing you want to change is change this to Maya so that it's Maya's setup. This would be most intuitive for you and easiest to learn. So go ahead and do that, and then there's just the path right here to where things are going to go, and that is perfectly fine. So just hit OK. And here we go. We're in Mudbox now. So basic head, and use that middle mouse and right click to move around your model like you would in Maya. So the front of the pen and then the back of the pen. So I guess it would be middle for the back of the pen, and then right click for the front of the pen if you did it correctly. So a couple things about Mudbox here. You've got the Maya cube up here too if you want to use that. Also, if you want to kind of frame your model again. So we've got these tabs up here. We've got the 3D view, which we're in currently. The UV view can be very helpful. The image browser helps you bring in a lot of images later on. It's very useful. And then this is pretty cool, the Mudbox community, where you can download tutorials, you can get brushes, all sorts of things get uploaded here. So definitely a great resource for learning Mudbox. I'm going to go back to the 3D view. Down here we have our tool palette. You can see all our tools down here: paint, curve, pose, and select. You can select objects two ways. You can grab this objects there and select it like that. Or you can go over here to your object list, which is kind of like an outliner, and you can select there too. So you can see your cameras, and see as I'm changing, I'm getting different properties down here in the properties palette down here. So I can select my basic head that way. I can select off of it by clicking off of it, or I can use my tool to do that. I also got layers, sculpt layers and paint layers when I'm at that point, and then various viewport filters for ways of viewing your model. So that is basic Mudbox navigation. Again, get used to using those pen buttons. I know it's weird. You're just going to use Alt and all your pen buttons, and that's how you get around here in Mudbox. It's just Alt, and then rotating is that just put the pen down just like you would in ZBrush, and then Alt and right click, and then Alt and middle will pan it. So that's basic Mudbox navigation. Now, the last section I'm going to go over is establishing the Maya connection. So I've got both programs open now. If you don't, go ahead and open it. We're going to send the model, and then if it doesn't work for some reason, you can also just bring in models manually, so I'll show that too. Oh, and real quick, for the setting up the pen in the Windows side, you just need to go to your control panel and then your hardware sound, and then you'll see your Wacom tablet properties there. You're going to have the same look to setting up your pen, so that's where you go. Just control panel, hardware and sound, and then your properties are going to be in there if you're working on Windows. So let me show you the link between Mudbox and Maya. So I've got them both open. Let me see Maya right here and Mudbox right here. Go back home, and then Mudbox right here. So I can select them right here, basic head, and then file and send to Maya. Now here I can send it as a brand new scene. It's gonna say, do you want to save this scene? And I'm gonna say no, probably, and then it's gonna bring a new model in. Update current scene, that's if you brought it in from Maya initially and made some changes to it. It's just going to replace that one with this new one. This will just update the textures, and this is going to just add this one to the current scene, so I'm going to select that. Now I'm connected because I had Maya open already. The first time you do it, it may take a while, so if that does, that's normal. It's just establishing the connection first, and then here we are. You can see when we bring it into Maya, you've got your Mudbox texture on there too, and actually if you're using the pen, you have the same navigation, so you get used to navigating with the pen in Maya, which is a little bit weird, but a fun thing that you actually learn how to do by doing this process. And of course, if you are having a problem going between Mudbox and Maya, you can do this the other way, just the classic way. Go back to Mudbox. I've got this guy selected, so I can go File, Export Selection. Just going to throw them on the desktop for fun. So Mudbox Test. And then hit Save. Actually, I'm just going to make that an OBJ. And I'm just going to hit Save. And then go back into Maya and just do a File. Import, and unfortunately it's not in a project, just Mudbox Test, and then import that, and so I've got that there, not with that Mudbox pretty texture on it, but or material on it, but here we are back in Maya, and so that is how you do it manually. So the most important thing you want to learn in this podcast, again, is how to navigate in Mudbox and feel comfortable doing it. If you want to go ahead and start going through some of these menus, dividing your model, playing with some of the sculpt tools, go ahead and do so. But the most important thing is learning navigation here in Mudbox so that we can actually do some work once we get into the live lecture. Alright, so good luck and thank you for doing your homework.